everyone, it's Karen again. Welcome back to week 3 of Tall Tales of Wexford. Can you believe it's the 3rd week already? I can't, and I cannot believe how many of you have so kindly got in touch with us to give us details like we asked for about you, about your life in Wexford, and some interesting things about you. I've put some of those things into this week's story again. And by the way, if you'd like to be in with a chance of being mentioned in next week's story, because it's the final one, you can email libraryhq@wexfordcoco.ie, or you can check out their Facebook page and their website for more details. Well, this week's story, it's all about Zorro. You might have heard of Zorro. You might have seen him on TV or in a movie. Lots of movies have been made about him. But what you might not know is that Zorro originally came from Wexford. Yes, he did. A little boy by the name of Billy. And what brought him to Mexico? Was it to be a swash-buckling hero wearing black with that face mask and sword that we all know? Or was it something else? Well, this tall tale would like to believe that it was something else indeed. Rissoles. You know those things you eat in the chipper? If you haven't, you should really try one. But in the meantime, you should have a listen to this week's story, Zorro HUN, and decide for yourself. Is it fact or is it fiction? See you next time.
Do you want breaded or battered? Half a dozen? Okay, here you go. Enjoy now. Next. Mrs. Maloney, just the one rissole for you. Have a lovely day. Next. Rissoles. Get your rissoles, but get them fast, they're nearly gone. Little Billy Lamport was run off his feet. The people of Wexford town couldn't get enough of his rissoles. Do you know what a rissole is? Maybe you've tasted one before. Maybe you've heard of them. Rissoles are what you might call a local delicacy, famous to Wexford. And it all started one evening hundreds of years ago when Billy was feeling hungry, even after having his tea. His mum had gone for a walk to Curracloe, so Billy searched in the food cupboard for a tasty snack. No, nothing. A bowl of cold mashed potatoes and a few cold chips. They're not very exciting to a 9-year-old boy, but Billy wasn't like other 9-year-olds. He was very independent and a great chef. Yes, he still went to school, but he dreamed of going out into the world one day and working, maybe being his own boss. Billy loved cooking, and he'd always be found helping his mother in the kitchen. She taught him how to make rhubarb crumbles, chicken and ham pie, cheese toasties, beef Wellington, jelly and homemade ice cream, flapjacks, knickerbocker glories, steak burgers, the tastiest dishes you could imagine. Billy dreamed of being a chef one day, maybe in one of the top restaurants in the world. You know those really posh ones where the tablecloths are white starchy linen and the knives and forks are pure silver, and you have to wear a suit if you're a customer, and you can't put your elbows on the table, and when you're finished eating you have to put your knife and fork beside each other in the middle of your plate. So posh. If Billy became the chef in a restaurant like this, he'd make a new rule that would allow all customers to wear whatever they wanted. They could wear their slippers or their pyjamas if the fancy took them. Elbows on tables? That would be fine. Slurping the last of your drink with your straw? No problem. Billy believed that people should feel comfortable in a restaurant, and it should be all about the food. Yes, one day he'd be a top chef, but today he just wanted to make something tasty, and all that he had was this bowl of cold mashed potatoes. Billy popped on his very high chef hat, and suddenly his head was filled with an idea. Okay, what if he squidged up the mashed potato and the old cold chips and rolled them into a little patty? He added a few herbs and spices from the big jar on the windowsill, and in the larder he found a bag of breadcrumbs. Now they were supposed to be for tomorrow's stuffing for the chicken, but what if he then rolled the mashy mixture onto the breadcrumbs? It would be like a tasty coating on the outside. Then again, he could make a batter with flour and milk and coat the mash in that, like a crispy coating. Billy decided he'd do both, and then he'd fry them in oil on the pan. Billy, these are delicious. What are they? His parents and brothers and sisters were very impressed with his new culinary invention when they came into the kitchen later. What are they called, Billy? Thought Billy, amazed at the reaction from his family. They're rolled from a bowl rolled soles. Sorry? Asked his sister. Rolled from a bowl rolled soles? Rolled rissole bowl rissole. Yeah, they're called rissoles with a soft S. Well, you'd make a small fortune if you started selling these. You'd certainly be the world famous chef you've always wanted to be, said his father, not expecting that Billy would stay up all night mashing more potatoes, making more batter, grating more breadcrumbs and rolling out more rissoles. By morning time, he had made 200 of them. And by 8 o'clock that very same morning, he had sold every single one of them. Billy had set up a little stand on the quay in Wexford, a simple table with a sign that said, Wexford's newest food, a taste sensation not to be missed. It will change the way you look at potatoes forever. Introducing the rissole. €1 each or 5 for €6. Not a great deal if you're good at maths. Terms and conditions apply. I'll take 5 on. That's a good bargain.
How's it going, Biddy? 2 rissoles.
Hiya, chap. 5 rissoles, chap. Word soon spread all around the county about this young boy and his famous rissoles. People started to queue from sunrise and they travelled from Gorey, Bunclody, New Ross to Mun and Enniscorthy to buy one of Billy's rissoles. His whole family would work through the night perfecting the recipe and making sure they had enough for all their customers the next morning. And those customers were starting to get very impatient.
Hurry up, chap. We're starving.
We want rissoles. Open up, hon. Because poor Billy had to work all through the night to keep up with the demand, he was falling asleep in school and he was getting terrible headaches because he was so tired. His mum told him they were called migraines and she made him a little black eye mask that he'd pop on every time he got a headache. It really worked. After a few weeks, people were travelling from Carlow and Waterford and Kilkenny to buy rissoles. Billy simply could not make them fast enough. And then something terrible happened. The big jar of herbs and spices in Billy's kitchen ran out. Now, if you've ever learned about explorers and sea merchants from centuries ago, you'll know that spices were brought into countries like Ireland by traders on big ships. Back then, you couldn't just go out to the supermarket and get a jar of 5-spice. Billy was worried. Without the spices, his rissoles would be bland and boring and, well, they'd be tasteless. And people wouldn't buy them. And he'd been working on another idea. The spice bag. It would be a combination of chicken and chips and spices, and he just knew that people in Wexford would love them. But with no spices left, what was he going to do? Billy was setting up his little stall down on the quay, selling the very last batch of rissoles. It was a busy morning, and a huge ship had just docked. It was magnificent, and Billy recognised the Mexican flag. Whoa! Imagine people from Mexico sailing in here, he thought. Now that's a place you'd find lots of spices. The sailors on board the big ship were ravenous, and as they disembarked they noticed Billy's stall. Hey, rissole, we try, no? Billy kindly offered the sailors the last of the rissoles for free, but he was very sad. This would be the end. He pucked a schlitter with his hurley as the sailors tucked in. Whoa, what is this? It's spice! In Mexico, we love this. Please let us fill our ship with the rissoles and bring back to the people of Mexico. I wish I could, explained Billy, but I've just run out of the most important ingredient. Oh, young boy, you are full of the sorrow. This food is delicious, and yet so much sorrow. Hey, Zorro, come with us. We sail again tonight. You can get all the spices that you like, and to make more of the rissoles, hey? Billy didn't explain that his name wasn't Zorro. He actually liked his new nickname, and he thought it sounded like a swash-buckling, caped crusader or something. His face lit up. Yes, he'd nip over to Mexico, get more spices, sell loads of rissoles there, bring spices back to Wexford, make the spice bags. What could go wrong? And so, with his hurl on his back and his black eye mask that his mother had made him, Billy wrote a sign at his rissole stall. Gone to Mexico, back on Monday. The pen was running out as he wrote the sign, and it made a squiggle, kind of like a Z at the end. Across the Atlantic Ocean they sailed, down into the Southern and Pacific Oceans, until they finally reached their destination, Acapulco, Mexico. The sailors were right. Billy's rissoles went down a treat. They introduced him to everyone as Zorro, and the name stuck. People were fascinated with his black eye mask and his hurl, which he'd sometimes use to swat away flies from his rissole stall. He'd shake the hurley out at the flies, moving it side to side in a Z shape, and he always greeted his customers with a big smile and a "How are you, hon?" He became something of a legend in Mexico. The queues for rissoles were miles long every day, and children began to dress up like him with a black eye mask, and they played with wooden sticks, calling themselves Zorro. "How are ya, hun? I'm Zorro, hun." To thank him for introducing them to such delicious food, the mayor of Acapulco gifted Billy a magnificent horse, which he called Tornado. He'd ride from town to town delivering the rissoles, to the delight of the townsfolk. But soon it was time to return home. The sailors were true to their word, and they loaded the ship with tons of herbs and spices, and Tornado the horse, all bound for Wexford. Billy entrusted the people of Acapulco with the secret rissole recipe, which has been passed down through generations to this very day. Back home, the people of Wexford were delighted to have Billy and the rissoles back, and his new dish, the spice bag, turned out to be even more popular than he expected. They liked their spices in the southeast. Billy went on to become the most famous chef in Ireland and Mexico. But he decided he wasn't going to open posh restaurants. He'd keep selling his famous rissoles and spice bags from his little stall on the quay in Wexford. And if people wanted to taste them, well, they'd have to come to him. A few years later, when the very first cinema came to Wexford, the locals packed in to see a movie about a swash-buckling masked hero, a noble bandit who went around Mexico dressed in black on horseback fighting baddies. It was called The Legend of Zorro.
You know what? That fella in the movie looked very like you, Billy.
People said to him at the interval, where Billy was selling rissoles and spice bags outside the cinema.
I think I seen him eating rissoles up on that horse. Imagine that. Zorro from Wexford.
Everybody laughed. If only they knew, thought Billy. If only they knew.